watching Medfield TV, community shows.
Hello, Medfield. Welcome to the newest edition of Medfield People. My guest today is a new friend of mine. His name is Joseph. He's a longtime resident of Medfield, and he's got a great talk to give to you about what you can do for charity. And he's got a very different one I've never heard of in Medfield before. So, Joe, tell us about what you're doing.
So, about 10 or 11 years ago, a friend of mine at work introduced me to this nonprofit called Agape, A-G-A-P-E, Agape International. And it was founded by a lady from Massachusetts who, on a visit to India, realized that there were children there who were abandoned by relatives after their parents had died from AIDS.
Oh, God.
So typically what happened is that the parent, maybe the father, would contract AIDS and then would never get tested, wouldn't know that they had it, and would then pass it on to the wife. The wife would then get pregnant,
and
then there you go. The child then gets, in fact, HIV positive when it's born. And then that's the only time they get tested, when the child is actually delivered.
Oh, my God.
And so what happens is, by then it's usually too late. And the drugs don't take any effect, and the parents die. Now, the orphans are very often left behind by their relatives because no one wants to take in an HIV positive child. There's stigma, there's fears of contagion,
Sure.
social higher costs. And so the children were abandoned. And so when Lynn Vogu, who was the lady from Massachusetts, went to India, she realized that there were these children running around on the streets, living off the streets, and found out that they were mostly HIV positive. The local government orphanages didn't want to take them in, again, for the same reasons, fears of contagion. They couldn't go to school. There was a lot of stigma about taking in these kids. And so she decided to do something about it. So she had a successful career in Boston working for an investment company. She then quit her job, went back to India, and rented a room, literally rented one room and took in 6 kids. And from there, she kind of grew the whole thing. And now she has about 250 kids. So she started this thing somewhere around 2002, 2003, and we heard about it through this colleague of mine at work at about 2005. And so we'd been sponsors. The way it works is you sponsor a child, an HIV positive child or an HIV negative child who's lost an orphan. So we'd been sponsors, but about a year ago, Lynn asked whether we could step in and do something a little more proactive about it. And so that coincided with me retiring from work, and I wanted to do something completely different from what I'd done before. And this was a perfect opportunity. So my wife and I, Maria, got involved with this, and we now spend most of the day working on this nonprofit. So I can tell you a little bit more about the details of how the nonprofit works. She has in Hyderabad, India, 8 homes where she houses these kids. Again, there are kids ranging from, a child that was brought in, 3 days old, left abandoned at a police station by the parents. So from all the way from 3 days old to today, she has the first batch of kids that came to her many years ago are now going to college. So the whole range. So she houses them. She makes sure that they get their treatment. Something like 80% of HIV positive children will die before their 5th birthday if they don't follow their medical treatment.
And if they do follow the treatment,
if they do follow the treatment, unfortunately, they are very prone to infection. So at Agape, 80% of them actually live. So 20% do die. I mean, these are children that sometimes are brought in at a stage where no treatment is going to make any difference. They've been left abandoned for so long that it's not going to make any difference. And so, as opposed to 80% dying before their 5th birthday, the work that Lynn is doing, 80% of them actually live. So we think that's a big difference.
Do they live happily, healthily?
Yes.
Relatively?
And so when they come in, they are usually badly malnourished. Roughly about 2/3 of the children that she takes in are significantly underweight because they haven't had any food. But within 3 months of them coming in, they put on 20% more body weight.
Wow.
And they're now on a regular regimen. 100% of them get that treatment regularly and they live. And so now, what kind of life do they have after that?
That's
right?
what I'm wondering.
So agape means unconditional love. And so what Lynn is actually providing, not just the basic necessities of food, shelter, clothing, and treatment, but she also provides love. And you can see some photographs. And if you go to our website, you can see photographs of her with the kids. I mean, she is hands-on living right there.
What's your website name?
It's called Agape International. So I'll spell it out.
Okay.
AGAPEINTL.org.
Okay.
AGAPEINTL.org. And so she provides unconditional love for these kids. And that's what actually attracted me to, and my wife to Agape, the fact that kids who had nothing, the poorest of the poor, were given a chance in life, and they just blossomed after that. They put on weight, they started smiling, and in every photograph you see them with big smiles on their face. So they, and the other critical thing that she provides, because the goal of Agape, in fact, the motto is cradle to college. Caring for HIV kids from cradle to college. Because there's always an exit plan. And the plan is, can these people be self-sufficient, productive members of society? You don't want them to rely on handouts for the rest of their life. So she provides them with a school education taught in English, which in India is a big thing, but is essential to get ahead in India. And so she has her own school. She's rented a 5-story building where she teaches these kids all the way from kindergarten to high school. She has about 13 teachers. They have a computer lab, a science lab, and the kids go through a regular curriculum. And again, the impact is phenomenal because whereas only, I would say, 10% of children finish high school in India, 75% of her kids finish high school. Whereas only 1% of girls, there's a lot of discrimination against women in India and against girls in particular in India. So whereas only 1% of girls go to college in India, almost 50% of her girls go to college. And when they go to college, they're like any other kid, even though most of them are HIV positive. They are under treatment, they are healthy, they study well. In fact, one of the girls is actually now doing her MBA. Another one became a chemical engineer. So these are kids that would have had no chance in life, were on the streets, and now are becoming productive, independent citizens. So that's what impact is. And that's the kind of difference she makes in people's lives.
What are the chances they are passing AIDS on to one of their own children?
So that is a concern in the sense that, obviously if they can only marry somebody that is also HIV positive.
And their children would be?
But then, as far as I understand, and again, I'm not a medical man, if they know ahead of time, the odds are significantly lower, less than 50% that the children will be HIV positive.
Wow.
And apparently, you can get, the children can start treatment right away, and they sometimes become HIV negative after that. So it's an okay life. Obviously, they cannot marry someone who's HIV negative, and they know that. But she also has HIV negative kids who are perfectly fine, and but they just don't have anyone in life. But their parents have died from AIDS. So these are kids who are, the way we say it is, they are affected by HIV or infected by HIV. So.
Or both.
Or both, yeah.
What do your own children think of your involvement in this?
I think they love it. I mean, they have obviously growing up in Medfield. They're very privileged, and they're happy to be in Medfield. We've been in Medfield for now 25 years. They've gone to the local high schools, and when they see how kids like the ones that Lynn has have been given a chance in life, I think they realize how lucky they are. So they actually help out with us in the nonprofit, help out at the annual fundraiser. My daughter in Medfield High School, she's a senior. She just graduated yesterday. Congratulations, Anna.
And where's she going to go next year?
She's going to go to Tufts. That's the school she wanted to go to, and she got in. She's thrilled. They had the all-night party last night. Oh, yeah. I think when I left this morning, she's still sound asleep.
I bet she was.
And my wife went early this morning, I don't know, 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning to help clean up.
Oh, that's a problem. I remember those parties.
Oh, I know. And we were there, I think, was it on Friday, kind of putting up all the stuff.
Yeah.
So it was good fun.
And you have other children too?
We have so we have 3 children. My son, John, again, graduated from Medfield High 6 years ago. He then went to BU to study physics, and now he works for a software company in downtown Boston. My middle girl, Gina, again, Medfield High, graduated 4 years ago, went to Colgate in upstate New York, studied mathematics and economics, and she graduated 2 weeks ago. So we've been running around from graduation to graduation.
We had one of those one year. We did.
So yeah. So for rest and relaxation, I come to the Medfield Community TV and relax over here.
And how long have you lived here in Medfield?
We came here in 95 February, and the very next day we had this huge snowstorm. And I didn't have a shovel, I didn't have a snowblower, and it was a new development up near Tubrek. Yep. And all the neighbors pitched in, and it was great. It was a wonderful welcome to Medfield.
That is great.
We came from New York City, where we didn't have snowblowers, obviously, and somebody
didn't have that much snow.
We didn't get snow. So what's this white stuff piling up on my garage? So they helped clean the place up. So it was wonderful, and so we love this town. Our kids have grown up over here. My son was 2 when we moved, but everybody else was born here and grew up here. And we've now been here for 25 years. I don't think I'll leave.
And what's your wife like?
Well, Maria is a professional chef.
Oh.
She's a French chef. She's trained as a French chef. She worked for many years, and she was working in London, she was working in France, she was working in New York when we met. And now she works at home. Oh. No, she retired because a chef's life looks very glamorous from the outside, but it's brutal hard work, and the hours are crazy. And so when the kids were growing up, she stopped, and she's at home now.
Yeah, the only professional chef I knew was Jean-Jacques Pomblanc.
I don't know who that is.
He moved out of Medfield about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And he would have parties for 30 or 40 of us, dinner parties. His kitchen was not much bigger than my walk-in closet, my bedroom. How the heck he did that?
That is exactly what amazes me about professional chefs.
Yeah, because there was a window on right looking over it, so we'd all stand there at the window watching Jean-Jacques do this. No idea how he did it.
Yeah. And I can't cook to save my life. So the very first time my wife and I met, I decided I'm going to cook. One thing I don't lack is self-confidence. So I decided I'll cook for her. And I never cooked in my life. And she gamely ate the food. And maybe about 2 or 3 months later, she said that was the worst meal she ever had in her life.
I've made some bad ones myself.
So anyway, but you're right. I mean, a chef can cook from nothing, basically, and quickly, very efficiently. So she's great. I mean, so we live, with that benefit of her cooking for all of us.
Jean-Jacques would do multiple courses.
Okay.
Like 4 and 5 and 6 courses in that little dinky kitchen. And we'd still say, how do you do it? Where do you keep all the stuff? Where is it? Where are the plates? I have no idea how he did it.
Yeah.
No idea, but it was fun to watch.
Right. So now our youngest has graduated and leaving home, so we're empty nesters now.
Yeah.
So
it's not always a nice feeling.
It's, but they're all local. They're all working and going to school nearby, so that's not too bad.
You think they'll end up joining your work project?
Sorry, which work project?
I should have rephrased that. Do you think they'll end up helping you with Agape? Think they'll be interested in doing it?
I think so. Well, they do when they in their spare time. Like so, as I was going to say, my youngest daughter Anna had a project at school where they raised money for Agape.
Oh, great!
And one of the girls, who's one of her classmates, Catherine Barrett, works as an intern for us, posting Instagram feeds, Facebook feeds. I'm not really up to date on social media.
Okay.
And so she's very good at doing that.
Because that's important.
Yeah, it's absolutely important. So Catherine's great at keeping our Instagram feeds up to date, and teaching me how these things work too. So So they have been involved. They will get more involved if they have more time. And we have a completely volunteer-based staff in the U.S. So nobody gets paid in the U.S. Everyone just kind of pitches in and does whatever needs to be done. And so I do the basic administrative work, the accounting, the fundraising, the record keeping that needs to be done. And so coming back to the model that Agape uses is that every child is sponsored. So we have donors all across the U.S., but most of them actually are in Massachusetts. And we have quite a few in Medfield.
Oh, do you? Good.
Yeah, who sponsor a child. And so for $350, you can sponsor a HIV negative child. But because an HIV positive child is more expensive, the treatment and the nutrition that they need, it's $650 a year, and that covers everything. So the way we looked at it was, for $650, you can give an HIV positive child a chance in life. And she also has education and, she can become a productive citizen, this HIV child that would have died otherwise.
And if people don't have that much money, they can send you $50 or whatever?
Absolutely. So you can donate anything, on the website. There's a place on our website where you can go in and, people give, we have people that give $5 a month. We have some of the kids from Medfield High School give $5 a month.
Do you really?
Yeah.
High school kids, I love it.
Yeah. And, $5, $10, whatever, or one-time donation, it doesn't matter. Everything goes to the kids. Which raises actually a very interesting point, because how do you know where your money is going to? So we're completely transparent. We have a gold star rating by one of the charity rating organizations called GuideStar. And what they do is they rate a charity based on transparency, on good governance, on how much of the money is actually being spent on the children. And so for us, we only spend 7% of the money on administration, and another 7% on fundraising. We have an annual dinner where we need to raise money and raise the awareness of Agape and pay for our websites and so on. But everything else goes 100% goes to the kids. And so most of the money that goes is used to pay for food, shelter, their school, and medical treatment. So because of that, because we're so lean, we've got a gold star rating for our charity.
Is the number of kids needing this service declining, I hope?
Well,
I hope.
yes, the rate of infection has gone down.
Good.
Okay, but it's still high. And so let me actually give you some numbers. I mean, the numbers are unfortunately still high. There are 26,000 children just in the area where Agape is that are HIV positive. And every year, unfortunately, 1,500 new children are born that are HIV positive. 1,500. So it's and with us we have 250 children, so it's difficult to make an impact, and one of the things we want to do is to see how we can leverage Lynn's experience, the experience that Agape has developed over these years, to maybe tackle the problem on a larger scale. We could maybe we want to create a training center. So other people could come in and see what Lynn is doing, see how she runs it, and then try and replicate this concept across other places in India, because the need is huge. The need is huge.
Is the country doing something on prevention?
Yes.
I hope so.
Yes. So like most countries, when they first recognized the problem, they wanted to sweep it under the rug and pretend that it never happens in India. But then it began to reach epidemic proportions. And so the country then switched, the government switched to a completely different tactic. And there were radio campaigns, advertising campaigns, education campaigns, mandatory testing, compulsory testing. And so the infection rate, which was running at epidemic levels, which is about 3% of the population getting infected, has dropped to about 0.5% now. So it's come down significantly.
But not enough.
But not enough, because the numbers are huge. So every year, unfortunately, 1,500 children are being born. Now, the good thing is the government has dedicated significant resources to medical for the drugs, for the antiretroviral treatments. And so every hospital has the drug supply, and parents can take their children and get them treated. The problem is most people don't know that they are HIV positive, and so that their children are HIV positive until
Yeah.
they start showing the symptoms.
Oh, geez.
So that's still a challenge, an educational challenge.
What are the first symptoms a person would feel?
I actually don't know that. I don't know what the first symptoms would be. I think what happens is you're prone to infections, and so maybe if you keep falling sick over and over again, maybe that's a sign. But again, I've never studied that part of it. My role has been purely on building awareness for Agape and trying to get them on a stable funding situation. So we want to move away from the city, which is where we're right now, into the countryside, so that the kids can have place to play and more living space. And there's a lot of pressure, unfortunately, even now, because neighbors around where Agape is just don't like having HIV positive kids living there. And so, there's a lot of pressure on her to move out. And so one of the things we want to do is to find land outside that we can build a permanent facility. Everything right now is rented. It's run very, very lean. Everything is rented. And so we want to move to a more permanent setting where the kids can actually breathe fresh air and play and not face harassment and discrimination. So that's what. So that basically is what we're trying to get done right now. We have our annual fundraiser every year. This year it's going to be on September 24th, and it's at the Holiday Inn in Boston, Brookline. In Brookline, Holiday Inn in Brookline. And it's just a dinner, and we have a silent auction, which my wife runs, and people get to see the work that Lynn is doing, have a nice dinner, and hopefully they feel impacted by what Agape is doing and join us.
Wow.
So September 24th.
I had no idea all this was going on.
Yeah, it's fun. So I think what I take away from this is how one person can make a difference. How one person like Lynn can make a difference in people's lives. I think that's at the end of the day. When they're screwing the lid down on you, you should ask yourself, what did you do?
What got her started?
Just visiting India and seeing that there was this need. And so that struck a chord in her, and she decided that she wanted to do something about this instead of just being another person working for an investment company in Boston. So she wanted to make a difference in people's lives. So she's actually out there, sleeves rolled up, dealing with the bureaucracy, dealing with the heat, dealing with the dust, dealing with the daily problems of running an institution with 250 kids. So I just don't know how she does it, but she does it. She's incredible. So.
Does she have children of her own?
She has a boy, who's James, who's about 11 years old, who lives there with the other kids. Lives there with the other kids. Yeah.
That's a good message.
Yeah, she's out there doing this exact same thing that people do. I think of her like a Mother Teresa. That's how I think of her as.
Same idea.
But she's energetic. She's hard charging.
Wow.
Nothing stops her.
I'm so glad there are people like that in this world.
Oh, I know.
I'm still in awe of a lot of people like that. Can you tell people how they could find out more about this event in September?
So I think the best way is we'll put the website up there, and the event is going to be posted on the website. They can send me an email. My email is joe@agapeintl.org, agapeintl.org. So they can send me an email asking for more information, and I'll be more than glad to send them anything they need about it. We've done a presentation that shows all the financial documents, in the sense that you know exactly where the donor money is going to, how it's being spent, a profile on our board of directors, some of the ratings by the the charity rating agencies.
Okay.
So it's all there on the website, and I can send them any piece of information they need. We have a newsletter that goes out every 6 months. We try and cut costs. We don't want to send out too much stuff, waste money on printing.
Because email's cheaper.
Email's much cheaper, yes, absolutely. And so that's how we get the news out. But it's not a very flashy organization. We don't have black tie dinners. We don't have big fundraising events. We don't have high-profile names attached to it. We don't have actors or anyone kind of, any famous person tied to it. It grows through word of mouth, and we just feel that when somebody that you know and trust recommends something to you, you tend to put a higher weight on that.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Absolutely.
if I read about it on the web, or if I read about it in a newsletter or a paper, I might say, that's great, and not really follow up on it. But if somebody whom I know and trust says, hey, Joe, take a look at this. These people are doing a good job, and I am actually putting my money where my mouth is, and I actually support them, then I might say, well, let me look at it. And I think that gives a little more credibility to the whole thing.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So that's how we've grown, word of mouth. And we've got a core group of donors who've been with us now basically for the last 15 years.
Wow.
Because once they join, they see the kind of work that Lynn is doing. They see the impact. They see the leverage that their dollar is giving to these kids. And they just stay on and keep giving, keep giving. And they come from a whole spectrum of people, mostly from Massachusetts. It's phenomenal, the warm-heartedness and the big-heartedness of people in this state. A nonprofit, 5,000 miles, 10,000 miles away, the appeal of a kid. Of being able to do something for that child and help that child live and make that child's life a more productive life opens people's hearts.
And you feel good.
And you feel good about it. You feel great, yeah.
Every time I've donated to something, I feel good.
Yeah, you were talking about this earlier before we came on, and I say, I'm glad to be part of this because it does not just does good for the kids, which is great, but it does good for me. I feel good about it. So I think that's great. So
that's the story I just told you about my Uncle Ed.
Yes, and, I think you should tell that story to the audience.
I probably said it before, but I'll say it again.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I had for those at home, I had a child with birth defects, and at that point, Blue Cross Blue Shield was not paying for that type of birth defect, and they were important for his life. So not for his life, but for his being able to really live and move around. So we finally were trying to squeeze money. I made powdered milk instead of real milk. I did all kinds of chintzy things to try and feed the kids, etc. And one Saturday morning, I went out to get the mail, and there, inside the mailbox, next to my door, was a cheap white envelope with my name stamped on it with a cheap rubber stamp. And I opened it up, and inside was a piece of brown paper cut out. It looked like with manicure scissors. It was curved a little bit. And inside there was a brand new $5 bill. I thought, wow. Oh my God, this was a long time ago. $5 was a lot of money when you're really squeezing the pennies. So I thought, I didn't know where it came from. I figured somebody made a mistake. I better put it someplace safe because they're going to want their money back. Next Saturday, I got another one, and then another one, and another. Every Saturday for a year, I got that money.
Amazing.
At the end of the year, I put all that money in my underwear drawer because I knew somebody was going to want their money back. But I started to ask people, did my parents, did other people do it? Did my aunts and uncles? No, not me, not me. No neighbors, no, not us. And it wasn't until about 40 years later when my Uncle Ed was dying and I went down to Philadelphia to visit him. And he said, Ann, did you ever find out who sent you those $5 bills? And I said, no, Uncle Ed, I didn't. And he said, Ann, it was me. And I said, Uncle Ed, do you have any idea what it did for me? And he said, Ann, do you have any idea what it did for me?
Exactly. Wow, that's an amazing story.
And that is my dream, to be an Uncle Ed.
Yeah.
I told several friends about it. One friend, Eddie Hughes, I probably should have used his name before he moved out of Medfield. He asked me if I ever knew anybody that needed money, and he would leave money on my dining room table. Wow. And if I came home and there was money there, I knew exactly because I was involved in a lot of things in town, people that didn't need it. I would just block print the name and mail it off. And, and Eddie said he felt good. He trusted me to mail the money out. And I did, I promise it. I really did mail it out. But there was such a good way to give money and such a good way to make yourself feel better.
Yeah, exactly.
And you do feel better.
Yeah.
It wasn't until later I realized what Uncle Ed meant.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's absolutely right. Yeah.
It does more for the giver than the person who receives it.
Right, exactly. So that's how we've been growing. There's people that feel exactly the same way that you felt or Uncle Ed felt. And so that's how we've been growing. Slowly, word of mouth, and getting the word out there.
Oh.
So we have another group of supporters out in Chicago, in Illinois. So there's a group out there that helps us too. So
can they mail something? Is there a mailing address?
Absolutely. The mailing address is P.O. Box 51, Ashland, MA 01721. So that the mailing address is also on the website.
Okay.
Yeah, so checks can be mailed in, or we have an online giving portal on our website where you can put your credit card in. It's completely safe and secure. It goes through a bank.
Yep.
Any way that works. What we don't do, unfortunately, well, for a number of reasons, is we don't take things like books and clothes because the shipping costs to get it over there is very, very, it's very costly. And then once we get there, there's a lot of paperwork needed for the customs clearance.
Sure.
And especially used clothing, they don't like you to send it in there. So that's why we discourage any kind of clothing or books or stuff like that.
And there are plenty of places locally to give.
Exactly, that we can give. There are people there in India that support this. So we have a big donor base in India that also supports this organization. So a lot of corporations, a lot of merchants are supporting it. But just to put this whole thing in perspective, just to put some numbers on it, again, it's all on the website, to run these 8 homes and to have the school and to support 250 kids, our total operating budget is $350,000. So relative to other nonprofits, we're very, very small. In fact, many of these rating agencies that rate charities need you to have at least $1 million of donations, and we're nowhere that big. I mean, we're a small outfit. So the $350 that we get every year, at the end of the year, all of it is basically gone because it's all spent on the kids. So again, next year we've got to start up again. And so one of the things we're trying to do is to find, big donors, maybe corporations, to help build an endowment fund that will kind of build a buffer to help these kids in case something happens in a given year.
Okay, now tell me, Ed, do you feel like you're a better person now than you were before? Has it done more for you?
I think so, because, when I first started, we had no idea about the problem of children with AIDS. We had no idea what happened to them. But now that we've seen the problem, I think it's just unfair in life if you have the means to do something about it, and there are people out there that are just literally dying before they're 5. And so having children, I can relate to this because I can see, I'd be devastated if, unfortunately, something like that happened to my children. So, and this would be routine. 80% of them die before they're 5. And if I can do something to prevent or to help that one child survive, right? I think I've made a difference in someone's life. And what more do you need in life for that? Yeah, that's so I think it's made me aware of the issue. It's made me aware of the problem. It's made me, as your Uncle Ed said, a better person. And it's had an effect on our children because, again, growing up in a community like Medfield, I think you're insulated from some of these problems around the world. And they're now aware of it. And I think it gives them a little more perspective. It makes them far more aware of how lucky they are, how great their life here is. And it helps them put the everyday problems that a kid in Medfield has in context. So my phone broke, or I don't have a car, or whatever.
I broke my wrist.
Well, okay, but as opposed to I'm going to die before I'm 5.
I know.
It's a whole different perspective,
Absolutely.
and I think it gives context to how you live your life. So I think it's had a big effect on anyone that has come in contact with this problem. So it's made us more accepting, more tolerant, and more aware of how lucky we are.
And I believe they'll be posting the email address on the site as well.
We will post the email address. We will post the website link.
Okay.
Anyone can call me, or I'm in Medfield.
Do you want to give the phone number?
Yeah,
or not?
I'll give you my phone number. It's 508-359-5849. That's our home number. Call me. Call me at home.
5849. That's easy to remember.
5849. Call me at home. So, and we'd love to get more people involved. One of the things we've been trying to do is to have donors or people sponsor a get-together. So we would have, my wife's a cook and she loves to entertain, so we would have a dinner or a lunch and get maybe 10 people to come in and just have a meal, talk, and then we would do a presentation about Agape. so people get to know and become aware of it. And so again, this is in the whole context of spreading the knowledge about Agape
Yep.
through word of mouth.
Absolutely.
So, someone comes home and listens to the presentation and they realize, hey, this is something worth doing, and maybe half of them might then decide to do something about it. So if people want to have events, or if they want to host maybe a get-together, and we could come in and talk about Agape and present to them.
That's great.
We have a YouTube video that we could show, and get the word out.
What's it called on YouTube so other people can find it?
Well, if you searched for Agape Hyderabad,
Okay.
Agape Hyderabad, you'd
I'll have
find
to try
it.
that.
Yeah, you could come up with YouTube videos. But again, all the videos are on our website. So if you went to the website, you could see it.
Okay.
We've collected all in one place. So the website would be a good place to start if someone wants to learn more about Agape. So.
Wow. Well, Joe, thank you so much. Is there anything you'd like to add before we close down?
No, take a look at the website. I mean, I want to thank you for
help.
reaching out and getting me up here and giving me a chance to make the case for the kids. So thank you.
Well, for people at home, thank you again for watching Medfield TV, and do pay attention to his website. Check it out and see if you have even $5, $20, whatever, to
Absolutely.
give them a hand.
Absolutely.
It would be great, because I'm very lucky. I've been extremely lucky with my kids, and I think probably most of us here in Medfield have been. So we might as well count our blessings and maybe help somebody else. So once again, thank you for watching Medfield TV. And if anybody out there has any ideas for future shows, send me an email at ammedfield@verizon.net. And again, thank you for watching Medfield TV.
Medfield TV, community shows.